Hey everyone, and welcome back to Remember This Tech. On today's build, we're going to be putting together a budget mid-range gaming build. I got this motherboard here off AliExpress. Now, it has quad channel RAM, it supports Xeon processors, has PCI Express 3.0 slot, but moreover, see that right there? That's an NVMe slot. So you won't see that on traditional X79, X99 motherboards, but this one has it. I got this for $37 shipped off AliExpress. And as far as I know, they don't make these chipsets anymore from Intel, but that may mean they took them and soldered them on, made new motherboards out of them. I'm not sure, like salvage, you know. This is going to be the platform we're going to use. And to go with this, you've all heard of the i7-6900K CPU, 8-core, 16-thread. It's a really strong gaming CPU, even to this day, and many might choose it for a budget build. But the fact of the matter is, it costs over $100 or more on eBay used. Well, enter the E5-1660 V4 Xeon processor. Oh, what's special about this, you say? Well, it's got 8 cores, 16 threads, and it's got a base clock frequency of 3.2 gigahertz and a max turbo frequency of 3.8 gigahertz with 20 mega cache and 140 watt TDP. Seems very similar, right? Well, they appear to be the exact same pieces of silicon, which in fact they very well may be. But the difference is, I got this for $30 on eBay used. Well, I just saved $70+, right? One notable difference is that this can support ECC server RAM. And now that we've already saved $70 to $80 on our same CPU equivalent, the fact that we can run ECC server RAM leads me to another savings. Wow, 32 gigs of DDR4 2400 megahertz ECC RAM, server RAM. This equivalent DDR4 3200 megahertz RAM, in it cost-wise, it would cost you about $70 to $80 on a brand new on Amazon. But I got this 32 gigs of server RAM ECC 2400 megahertz for only $30. So that's another huge savings, right? We're gonna pair this system with my tried and trusty brand new RTX 4060 8 gig card. You know, entry level to mid gaming, it's going to give us fairly decent 1080p at great resolutions. And it should have plenty of power, so it won't bottleneck this. In fact, this may bottleneck the CPU, but we're gonna find out. And we have to cool this thing. So we got the Thermalright Assassin King 90. So if you're gonna get a cooler, you gotta make sure you get this one or something similar and make sure it supports the 2011 chipset. Otherwise it's not gonna fit. And you need cooling power to be able to cool off these CPUs. It's pretty interesting. You open it up, and as soon as you open it up, it says unlock chill force here. And this costs a little under $30. You see a growing theme here. $30, $30, $30. So without further ado, let's slap the components into the test bench and get some benchmarks rolling. This is exciting. Come on, let's go. I'll test some do rendering on DaVinci's Resolve and about 11-minute worth of video clip. We have it, 7 minutes, 19 seconds. That's what it took to complete. Not bad for 11-minute video, but not the best. Alright, it's time to test some games now that we got some synthetic benchmarks out of the way. And the first one we're going to test is going to be Baldur's Gate 3. We're going to test it at 1080p. And
a visitor. You're a welcome sight. But let us observe the customs of the locals.
The scholar's brow tenses.
Open your mind to me. Let us see what lurks within.
As the Meloan's mind pierces yours, the tadpole pulses with power. It feels 10 times its size. Alive, awake, almost smug.
This is most unusual. The incubation period should be complete, as should your transformation. But the larva is infused with strange magic.
I'm going to say with 84 and 111 FPS that we're pretty good at this resolution, so let's move it up to 1440p. Let's see what it looks like with it updated here. Still at high ultra, so let's see. Alright, so we did drop a bit, but not much. So this game is 100% playable at 1440p. So the GPU is taking more. It's at 99% now, so it's taking a bit more to run it, but the CPU is not the bottleneck here at 1440p. It's the GPU, as you can see, as far as I can tell, because we've got tons of cores just barely doing hardly anything, and some are peaking at 50%. So yeah, and we're not even boosting to 3.7 or 3.6, nothing for the CPU. This power reading, the 6.8 watts, that doesn't seem normal. Although we are using 11 gig of RAM now, so yeah, 100% playable on this system with this GPU at 1440p. Excellent. So let's start some benchmarks at 1080p for Red Dead Redemption. Well, 800 frames per second at 1080p, really good, and the CPU is not even taxed whatsoever. So yeah, excellent. Let's try 1440. So we got 1440p with the Ultra. Settings. I'll get out of here. Of course it's dark now. Great. So we did reduce about 25 FPS, but really, it's really not that big of a hit. I mean, we're 1440p. The CPU is not even struggling. It's not even being hit. almost 12 gig of RAM. 5 gig of RAM used for the GPU. And the power consumption for the CPU is not correct, not even close. Look at this, 62 low and 94 for a high for FPS. I mean, that's at 1440p, everyone, and that looks pretty nice. Let's switch over to 4K just for the heck of it. Probably destroy the game, but let's try. Still at ultra for most of the settings and high. Let's get out of here and reset the counter. Let's see what we have here. 30 and 40. And that's 4K. You can see the light reflected from the fire off of my coat. So this is 4K and I'm playing quite nicely on this setup. High 30s, low 50s. CPU is not being hit whatsoever. Anyways, the experiment is good. 4K. Well, let's test Starfield. It's a newer game. So we've got 1080p render resolution scale. So let's increase it a little bit. 75. There we go. All right, starting the counter. 60 FPS. I'm just gonna run around. CPUs are barely scratching 45%. GPU, however, is being used for quite a bit. Let's safely assume that 1080p is running great, so alright, let's save it. And let's adjust it to 1440. I have to change my settings on my desktop, obviously. Alright, we are at 1440. Really didn't do much of a dent in the system. As far as the overall FPS didn't change too much. I mean, down a little bit for the low. GPU is still maxed. CPUs haven't really done too much. I mean, now we're getting like 52% on one core, but you would think it would be more, but it's not. And we're really not taking any hits on the CPUs. It's not a challenge. Alright, so GPU is pulling about 110, 120 watts. And GPU is maxed. Well, 97%, 98, and CPUs are not doing much at all. Search the werewolf's lair. So still wait for a signal. Alright, 1440p, unlimited frames per second, still at high settings. Let's set this up and reset the FPS counter, shall we? I mean, who says you can't play 1440p on a RTX 4060? And the CPUs, they're not really doing anything. Next game is Jedi Survivor. Of course, we have to play this game. Gotta see how it does at 1080p and 1440p.
Up here? You're gonna disobey a direct command? Found you, intruder!
Whatever intel the senators got stashed, I hope it's worth the risk.
You never give up hope, do you, buddy?
We gotta find that yacht before the Empire does.
Is it safe up here? You're gonna disobey a direct command? Movement! For confirmation! You're not getting out of this! You can't take a hit!
Whatever intel the senators got.
So, final thoughts on this LGA 2011 TAC3 X99 motherboard. It cost $37. At first I had a problem getting to work. I had to put in one RAM stick in the farthest left slot. Then it would post. Then I had to go into the BIOS and shut off all these memory check things and configure it. And then I slowly populated each bank and it worked fine. The 1660, the thing is a beast, okay? And if this is an option for you, $37 board, $30 CPU, buy some DDR ECC 2400 megahertz, 32 gig RAM, another 30 bucks, that's like under $100 for that system. I tested Cinebench R23 because I wanted to see how the system stacks up, and a bunch of other synthetic benchmarks because I have plans for this motherboard in a future video. So if you haven't subscribed, make sure you click that like button and subscribe because you don't want to miss this upcoming content. So as far as gaming is concerned, the thing did pretty well. Most of the time it was never stressed, and I never saw it go above 60% utilization on the cores. If anything, the 4060 GeForce was holding it back. it could definitely take a more powerful video card and easily push 1440, maybe even 4K gaming without probably breaking a sweat. Is this a viable option for your entry-level rendering machine and gaming machine? Let me list some downfalls for that motherboard. You're not going to get support, you're not going to get upgrades, BIOS. It's basically end of life. What you have is what you're going to get. So if you're okay with that and no support, or limited if that, then I say, well, 37 bucks, go for it, right? Some of the pros I've already listed. You know, you can get cheap ECC RAM, you can get a cheap Xeon processor. I've noticed that the VRMs get a little hot, the cooling's not that great, so keep that in mind if you're running a more powerful Xeon CPU. The other positive is that I'm running an NVMe drive, limited to PCI Express 3.0, but you saw from the benchmarks that it is gaining just about the full capabilities of that slot. So whatever they did to shoehorn this in this motherboard is actually working. So do I recommend it? If you're someone who loves to tinker, wants a great entry-level system with a few modern updated systems, things like the NVMe drive, then sure, go for it. Just know what you're getting into beforehand. Thanks for coming along with me on this journey, and thanks for watching Remember This Tech.